Hello my darlings and welcome. In this video I use air-dried clay to make an earth goddess offering bowl for my altar, and I create a sigil for honoring the earth. Let's do some magical crafting. I'm making an earth goddess offering bowl to represent all of the earth goddesses and goddesses of creation and fertility. I'm making this offering bowl for an altar I'm setting up for the specific purpose of dedicating myself to honoring the earth and living in a more sustainable manner. And so I'm starting by creating a sigil to incorporate into my bowl. I write out my intent as a simple, immediate, and positive statement. I honor the earth. I cross out all of the vowels and duplicate consonants, leaving only one set of consonants. These are the manifesting sounds. I get H-N-R-T. I decided to work with the lowercase versions of these letters because I know I want my sigil to have rounded and curving lines in it. Next, I arrange those letters into a sigil, and you can watch the process as it begins to take shape. I use the shapes of the letters, but I'm not afraid to get creative with their positioning or direction. The H and N end up being horizontal instead of vertical. I put the R on top and attach the T below. Eventually, the line comes off of the H and joins the line of the T in the middle. And I swap the T backwards to make a symmetrical sigil. I like to work towards symmetry, or at least some order or balance in my sigils, but each one comes out a little bit differently. When I finally have a sigil I like, I trace a circle onto my paper, and I carefully draw the finished sigil inside of it. I've created worksheets for several sigil creation methods. If you'd like to download PDFs of these sigil worksheets, please visit Magical Crafting on Patreon at the link below the video. My patrons can download recipes, Book of Shadows pages, artwork, and more, all provided as PDFs, and I continue to add new downloadable content as I do more projects on this channel. Now let's move on to the air-dried clay. I have to warn you in advance that I'm not a sculptor, so I'm just going on instinct and bravery to make this magical craft. If you want to try your hand at making a goddess offering bowl, I'll link to all the materials I use in this video below. I'll give you a brief description of my process for sculpting and painting my offering bowl, and then let you watch the process unfold. I wasn't sure how stable my creation was going to be, so I decided to use a 6-inch round piece of unfinished wood as a base for my offering bowl. I conditioned a medium-sized piece of clay and rolled it into a ball. Then I flattened it to about 1/4 inch thickness and made a shallow bowl by pinching and smoothing the sides upwards again. Every time I created a portion of my offering bowl, I used a small paintbrush dipped in water to smooth out each piece. The second step was to create my goddess figurine, and here's where I just took a leap and did the best I could. I created her legs and torso out of a flattened triangle of clay, and then added 2 arms on each side to create shoulders. Since she's an earth goddess and represents fertility, I added a protruding belly onto her just over the rim of the bowl. Next, I created a small ball for her head and I used some small metal carving tools to sculpt her face. It ended up looking like a kind of primitive sculpt, but I kind of liked it. I did a little smoothing and then just left it as is. I attached the head onto the body by poking a toothpick down through the head into the body. Then I snipped the extra wood away and hid the whole thing with some clay hair. Since my goddess has a simple body and a primitive face, I also kept the hair very basic, generally giving her a center part and making her hair in 5 or 6 large strands. I did not try to sculpt a realistic head of hair with every strand. Once my little goddess was finished, I attached her to the bowl, and I used a wet paintbrush to smooth out a lot of my mistakes. The next step was to leave the bowl to air dry in a safe spot for about 2 days. The length of drying time will be based on how much clay you use and how thick your pieces are. I found that 2 days were sufficient for my little bowl. After the offering bowl was dry, I used a black marker to transfer my sigil onto the bottom of the bowl. It will be hidden there by paint and by the wooden base. The sigil will remain in my subconscious to do its work. The next step was to paint the goddess. I knew that I wanted to use various shades of blue, green, and brown to make it look mottled and swirling, like an aerial view of the planet Earth. I decided to use my 6-inch round piece of unfinished wood as a paint palette for my acrylic paints, knowing that once I was finished painting my goddess and my bowl, I could use the remaining paint to cover the wooden round. Once everything was painted and allowed to dry completely for several hours, the final step was to attach the offering bowl onto the painted wooden base. I used a lot of hot glue to make sure it was attached securely. I'll let you watch the rest of this craft project unfold without further comments, except to say that I hope this video inspires you to try your hand at a clay project or to make some sigil magic of your own.